Hi, I'm Jay, and today I'm going to tell you about the Gardenreet low voltage landscape pathway lights. Let's take a look. Here is one of the lights. You buy all of the lights separately. You can buy them in a number of different finishes. You can get them with different kinds of bulbs. That's a little bit extra if you get it with the bulbs, or you can put your own in on these. This is meant for a more advanced do-it-yourselfer, or of course a contractor. Let me take this box open here and I'll show you what's inside and how it goes together. Now this is going to be a longer video. It's going to show you how you can connect the wires, how you connect the lights, how everything goes together here. We're going to talk about powering them. As you see, there's no power supply here. What you do get in each light box is the installation instructions, some wire piercing adapters over here. You can use those or a different way to connect the wires. You get a ground stake, big honkin' grass stake like that, the pole, the light hat, and I opted to get a bulb with it as well. Let me tell you a little bit about it before we get started here. This fixture here takes a G4 style lamp. You can find those in LEDs. You can also find them in halogen. And yes, you can install a plain old halogen bulb if you want that really, really nice look of an incandescent bulb. But of course you will have to size your transformer appropriately. The pipe is 1 inch thick. The light hat is 6 inches in diameter, and it stands about 2 foot high if you get this ground stake all the way in the ground. And again, I'm going to go over all of that. Wire that's included is 18 gauge. That should be fine because this is low voltage, 12 volts for that. Of course, the light is IP65 waterproof. And if you go for an LED like that, you can also find them in different colors. Green and red for Christmas, red, white, and blue for 4th of July. You catch my drift. So you can customize them throughout the year depending on what you want. Another really nice thing about this is it has a lifetime warranty. So let me show you how it all goes together. We'll talk about the bulb first. I opted for this one. This is a warm white LED. It has all kinds of lighting facts, nutritional information, all that kind of stuff over here that you can look through here. This is a G4 style halogen base bulb. It's an LED. It's got 2 pins. And those are going to interface with the top of that. But let's go ahead first and we'll put this together as far as the ground stake goes. So first thing I'm going to do is undo the wire, and I'll show you why here. See that? I can stick my finger through there. It's going to screw in here. It's got screw threads, so that's obvious. And then you can run the wire out there, and if you get it seated just right, that wire can be below ground. You'll have to take a shovel and make a line in the dirt or whatever you got, and that way you can run it underground. This is just for testing purposes, so it's going to be above ground. Do not do that when you install these because you want it to look nice. Alright, you're going to definitely get the general idea. Let me undo this wire because you need to do that to get it through. Don't worry about the end here. You're going to take care of that later. Meanwhile, what we're going to do is simply feed the wire right through and just get it to come out one side or the other. It doesn't matter. And then we're going to run that all the way through. Okay, and then it comes over here, and now this simply screws together. Alright, so we're going to get that screwed together there, and then I'll show you the top part. Top part has got some plastic. Just take that off there. And then we're going to go ahead and get our bulb. You see the 2 pins right there. So we're going to go ahead and insert that. Now if you're using a halogen bulb, you want to be careful not to touch the glass. So you're going to want to wear gloves or use a paper towel or something like that, because that could shorten the life of it. LED, it really doesn't make a difference. Now that we have that together, we can get the top. Let's take a better look at it first. There it is there, so that gives you an idea what it'll look like. And right there, screw threads here. This piece is glass, so it's going to look really nice. So take that and just insert it just like that, and now we're going to go ahead and screw that on once we get the threads to line up. There we are. Okay, just like that. So here is your finished light down to the ground stake, and here's your wire, which will ultimately get connected to the transformer. Let's talk about the transformer and the wiring now. So here is a Gardenreet 75 watt, one common, one switch. Tap is 12 and 15 volts, 120 volt input. I'm going to go over what the tap and all that means. We got a lot to talk about. There's a lot more involved in wiring up your own landscape lighting than you may have imagined. Here is the transformer. It's big, it's heavy. This is the real stuff, okay? This is not those little solar lights that you've had. This is the real deal. Not included with this is some wiring, but I just wanted to show that to you right over here. This over here is 100 foot of 16-2. That means 2 conductors, 16 gauge wire, like that. The wire gauge, the lower the number, the thicker the wire. Again, the lower the number, the thicker the wire. You may need this to extend because everybody's setup is different. It depends how far apart you're putting the lights and where you're locating them and stuff like that. To wire it in, there are some knockouts on this side over here. You got a big one there. You got these metal ones you can punch out. Just put a screwdriver and a hammer and you can knock them out. You just bend them like that. And you do need to open it up and go inside, and you will find some goodies in there. Included with this is a screwdriver along with some screws. You need to remove these 2 screws. So see the line over here, short section, long section. The long section is what comes off. Let me get those screws out. With the screws removed, we can take the cover off. You just pry it up like that, and there you go. Set that aside. In here, instructions. All right, we're going to talk about all of that in just a minute, and you see you got all kinds of great looking stuff in there. There's a built-in timer in this particular transformer. Again, the transformer does not come with the set. They don't know how many lights you need. You need to figure that out first. You probably want to oversize the transformer, and the reason you want to do that is in the event you may wish to add more lights in the future. Over here is a loopback plug, as we call it in the computer field, and a switch over here. The switch is a manual switch, on or off. If you put it to on, they run on all the time, day and night. There is available a photo cell if you want them to come on at dusk and go out at dawn. That gets wired in here. You pull out the loopback plug and plug it in there instead. The timer still runs regardless, either which way. The way the timer works, you can turn it. The little arrow over here points to the time of day, and there's little fingers. Look, see how I can move them out like that? So when you do that, those are going to be on-off cycles, and you have a total of 48 of them, so you can have on-off throughout the day whenever you want, just like that. This will keep its time. Of course, you will need to reset that in the event of a power outage or something like that, because it'll mess the time up. There are mounting tabs on the transformer right there, and the bottom one, if you can see it, I'll lift it up, is just a slot. That's because it's supposed to be mounted this way on a wall with the wires coming out the bottom. This is suitable for wet locations, so it can be placed outside. Another thing I'd like to point out, which is not mentioned, you may not wish to time the lights. And again, you have the switch there you can just leave in the on position, but then you still want to be able to control them. Now, of course, you can go the old-fashioned method and plug this in and out whenever you want. They'll turn on, obviously, when it's plugged in, and turn off when you unplug it. You might have a switch in your garage, your shed, or wherever you're powering it from, and you can flip that switch all day long without having to open the cover on this guy and that. So that's up to you. Another thing you can do, they sell separately from other companies a smart plug that is outdoor rated. And you can hook a smart plug up to that, and then that could interface with your Google Home Assistant or your Amazon Echo or some other such smart speaker like that, and that will make it voice controllable. You can turn it on and off simply by asking. You can also ask to set a timer like that, and more advanced setups can actually have it turn on dusk to dawn based on the sunrise and sunset times, so there is no adjusting this timer at all. Again, that's way beyond the scope of what we're doing here. We're just talking about how to connect this light up. But that pretty much is the in and out of the transformer. Let's now talk about how it's wired. In there are 3 terminals, COM, 12 volts, and 15 volts. What's the difference? What do you do? All of that. Okay, well, this comes down to electrical theory. It's all laid out in the booklet here. It explains how you can calculate it. There's equations and all kinds of mathematical things that you have to do to figure that out. And you want to take the time to sit down. It's really not difficult. Pretty much, you're going to add up the wattage of each of the fixtures that you're installing. And then you want to get a transformer that can handle that, plus has additional load capacity. In other words, if you need 75 watts, and this is a 75 watt transformer, not really a good choice. You want to go for something a little above that, so that way you have room to add additional lights, number one, and number two, you don't want to run it at 100% capacity, although it's rated for it and it can do it. You also don't run your car with that needle on the tachometer all the way up to the red line at all times. It's way lower than that under most circumstances. Now again, I showed you in here that there's a 12 and a 15 volt tap. What does that mean? What does that do? Well, like I said, it's a 12 volt system, so you want to run it on 12 volts. But depending how many lights you have and how you're connecting them, you may need to go to a 15 volt the 15 volt tap instead. And that's because as the line gets longer, there's going to be voltage drop. So at the end of it, you may not have 12 volts. If you hook it up to the 12 volts, you may have to hook it to the 15 to compensate for that. The problem is if you hook it to the 15 and run the bulbs, they pretty much will work without any problem, but their lifespan is going to be shorter. They're going to be brighter, but it's going to be shorter. So pretty much the easiest way to find out, hook it up to the 12 volts, and then in the event it's not enough, you're not going to hurt anything, you can simply move that over to the 15. Done. That pretty much is the best way without getting into all of the complicated stuff. Now, how you're connecting the lights together, each light has a 6-foot cord. I just have this wire here, and I'm going to just show you how it gets wired into the transformer, and then my lights are going to connect to this like that. There is polarity with this. You can feel bumpy on one side and smooth on the other. Bottom line here is this is low voltage stuff. Try to keep it the same. If you can't, you make a mistake or you can't be bothered, it's not going to hurt anyone because it's low voltage. So try to keep it consistent just for consistency's sake and go from there. First thing I need to do here is split this wire. There's a million different ways to do this and a million different wire tools out there. I have this here, which is just a pair of diagonal cutters, so we can go in there and split the wire like that to get two separate wires like that, which will now connect to the COM and either the 12 or the 15. Simple like that. You need to strip these wires. Again, there's all kinds of strippers. I've had this one for almost 40 years now. They still make it, but you'll have to look. If you see one that kind of looks like this, that's probably the one. And we're going to strip some insulation. How much? If you get too much, you clip it off. It's not really a big deal. There you go, right there. Something about like that. We'll do the same on the other wire. And good practice is to go ahead and twist these wires together, because all the little strands, okay, like that. And now you need to get this into the transformer. Again, there's the knockout plugs here. Again, I'm not doing this on a permanent basis right now. So what I'm going to do is cheat just for this. Don't do this because you're not going to be able to get all of the wires inside, but I should be able to sneak it right in over there, and that'll be enough to get this powered up so you can see what it really looks like later. So in here you saw the terminal block with the black, blue, and orange colored stuff. Using the flat side of the screwdriver right there, you can unscrew the screws closest to this end of it, and then there's a little hole below that where you put the wires in. I need to get that done, and then I can show it to you what it looks like, because otherwise my big hands are going to be in the way. The back panel here actually comes out with 2 more screws, and that will make everything a lot easier. But again, you want to get these knockouts punched out of here and run the wires through it so you can put this back, because otherwise there's not going to be anywhere for them to come out of. For example, we can take this. I've already loosened these screws right here, and now these will fit in. This is going to be on the 12-volt side, and they go in just like that. So push them in there. You don't want any bare wire showing, okay? And then you go ahead and take your screwdriver, and you're going to go ahead and run the screws down until they're tight. And I'll do the same with the other one. And there you go. Nice tight connection, and won't come out. And then this panel is going to go back. Again, I'm just going to sneak the wire right through there so I can get this powered up for you for later, and put this cover plate back on. Now I want to point out that this would be suitable for one light. So what you're going to do is this. Each light has a 6-foot length cord on it. Okay, if that's enough from the transformer, hint, it's not, then you can go ahead and run them all in through one of the knockouts and connect up to those same terminals I showed you before. You then would need some sort of extension lead, again from that spool of wire that I showed you earlier, and this is a piece from it right there. Okay, so now you would need to connect these wires to the wires from the light, so this way the closest ones, you might be able to wire right in, but as they get farther and farther away, you need to extend the wire. Now you can extend the wire. You just cut off the piece that you need from the spool, and then you connect them. Again, you're going to use your cutters, your strippers, and get the bare wire like I had shown you before, and you twist the wires together. How you do that and the way you do that is really going to be up to you. You need to secure them together. There's a number of ways you can do that. The best way is to use solder and a soldering iron and heat shrink tubing. Okay, if you haven't used this stuff before, you can learn. It's not hard, and it doesn't cost much to get started, but that's the best way, because that's going to ensure that these lights are always connected. But there are easier ways. You can buy these things, which are called solder seal connectors, and basically you stick one wire in on one side, one wire on the other side. There's a ring of solder in there, and you heat this with a heat gun. It melts the solder, solders the wires, and heat shrinks it all in one step. I've had mixed results with these. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. use at your own discretion. Another thing you can do is connect the wires together and just twist them together and put electrical tape on it. But that really is not a great way, because in time the wires may corrode or cause a bad connection and you don't have a solid, rigidly mounted connection. So that really isn't the best way, but it'll get you up and running for the night. But you got to come back and fix it right. Most common way you're going to find is by using these things. Here in the US, these are called wire nuts. In Canada, they're called morettes. And in other countries, you got your own names for them. You've seen these before, I'm sure. There are other types of wire connectors like that. You put in the wire on each, and then you twist that on. You can also put electrical tape around it to make it safer still. And for sealing everything up in that, there's even this stuff called liquid tape, and it's a brush-on type thing. It's real goopy stuff like that, but it dries like a rubber coating on that and will seal the wire up really, really nice. So that's available as well. You pick and choose how you're going to do that. So how you connect the wires up together is completely up to you, but I can tell you this much. The more time you spend doing it the right way, the less time you'll spend later fixing it. Do it right the first time. Okay, now for connecting the lights to this, remember you would have a lead coming out for every light that you are connecting to the system. You can't daisy chain them one after the other. Two reasons. One, it's kind of like Christmas lights where one goes out, the rest go out. And two, way too much voltage drop by the end of the line, so it's going to be nice and bright here, but real dim at the other end of the yard. Not what you want. So everything kind of needs a home run back to the transformer. For the wires, we are going to do, just for this setup test right here, we're going to hook up the wires just using wire nuts, as you see. Okay, again, I'm doing this on a temporary basis. Otherwise, I'd definitely be soldering this and putting heat shrink. This wire on top has the bumpy side, and this one does as well. So we can put those together. Two schools of thought on this. It's up to you if you're using wire nuts. Some people say twist the wires together. Others say don't. The other two are going to get connected here. I like to twist them. That's totally up to you. We'll see if these fit. That should do. Just like that. And like that. Again, if you want to put electrical tape all around that, wouldn't be a bad idea. It's going to be probably in the ground, on the surface, but in the ground. And let me shut the room lights out and let you see just what one of them looks like, because we've kind of had a lot of talk and not much action here. And then later, I'll take you outside to show you the whole setup. Okay, so here's one of the lights. I'll go ahead and apply power. And there you go. Now, you can get different color bulbs. Like I said, there's warm white, there's cool white, all different color temperatures and that. Or you can put halogen in there as well, but of course you will need a beefier transformer for that. But just take a look at the light. That's one of them. Okay, this is serious stuff. That's the inside. I don't know if the camera will adjust the exposure down so you can see, but that's kind of how it sits, and it's just a little hat like that. They look great. They'll hold up, and I'm going to go get these installed outside, and I'll show it to you after dark. So I got this little pathway here that goes to the backyard, but you'll notice that right over here is where the front lights of the house just cut off, and it's dark. The neighbor's got a little solar light. That doesn't do anything. And as you can see, it's real dark there. Now again, I have this just on a very temporary basis. The ground is pretty much frozen, so I had a hard time putting them in. But this is just an idea of what you might be able to expect. And there you go. That's really nice. Let's take a better look. Now again, this is temporary, so you would not have the wires above the ground. You certainly wouldn't put the transformer like that. It's not designed for that, but this is the best I could do for a quick setup here. What you'll notice on the fence, you see how the light just cuts off, because these are nice little hat lights. They put out a nice amount of light. They light up the pathway, as you can see here. Perfect. You can definitely see. If you've had those solar lights, they just don't do the trick. Not like these will. These are the real deal. So once again, from dark to light. They look great. They put out a tremendous amount of light. They're low voltage, so they're safe. Dresses up your yard. Excellent set all around. Again, every particular part that I showed you is a separate purchase. If you'd be interested in purchasing these lights, I will leave a link in the video description to Gardenreet's website where you can find it available for sale. Thanks very much for watching. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.